Church of England has been instructed to increase the size of its fund aimed at addressing the legacy of slavery.
Yes, this directive comes from an independent review commissioned by the Church itself, which suggests that the current fund is insufficient, but is a boost to £1 billion from £100 million completely unrealistic. £1 billion. Well, joining us is journalist and broadcaster Peter Whittle. Peter, what do you make of this? We've heard from Justin Welby many a time about the historic wrongs of slavery. He's apologised at length for the Church's role and links and whatever else. And now he's potentially going to take this advice. What do you think?
Well, Emily, I think it is quite typical now of the Church of England. It has to be said. Basically, this is a fund which they're aiming to make 1 billion, as you say, rather than 100 million, to expunge the moral sin of slavery. They're going to make sure that there is investment in black-led businesses all over the world. I mean, look, where do you start with this? The fact is that the Church of England has been pretty much captured by what we would call critical race theory, right? It's completely, from top to bottom, infected with guilt, white guilt. And you would say, would you not, that if you're going to try and raise a billion, you might want to use it for the current day scourge of slavery, as it is in the world today. It's worse than it's ever been. In fact, it's just that this is always entirely on this one particular aspect of the trade, which was the transatlantic trade. And in fact, the Church obviously is completely obsessed with this, and somehow by spending money, it's a form of reparations. That's what it is. Basically, they are going to try and expunge their guilt. This comes at a time when the Church of England is taking on, get this, a deconstructing whiteness officer. This was announced last week in the Midlands, right? This should tell you basically everything about where the Church of England is now. You know, this is something which sees whiteness as some kind of pathological state. And so what have we had as well this past week, this past month, indeed, from Church of England? We've had that they are helping illegal migrants, for example, with their so-called conversions to Christianity in order to make sure that they get successful applications. We hear nothing from the Church about all the various other things that we are really faced with at the moment. Serious problems such as the threat of Islamism, for example, the fact that we might have a new blasphemy law coming in under Labour, which, frankly, you would think the Church would have something to say on. But in fact, no. What it does, it goes back to these past acts such as the transatlantic slavery trade. Not once as well has there been any acknowledgement, and you think this would be celebrated, that this country abolished slavery. You know, it abolished slavery. It was the first country to do so, and essentially then went around the world, used its Royal Navy to go around the world to basically make sure that abolition was enforced all over the world for 50 years after. But basically, the Church isn't interested in that. It's interested in basically enforcing critical race theory, which sees basically white people as inherently racist.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute... it's a fundamental point that you raised there, Peter, that this country did more than any other to wipe out the evils of the slave trade. Lord Liverpool made it a condition of the Peace of Vienna at the end of the Napoleonic Wars that all these other great powers had to do it. None of them did. And frankly, the Christian movement in this country was the driving force behind getting rid of the slave trade. But I'm so sorry, this is all we had time for. I could talk about this.
I know.
And I know we could talk about this
for
the whole rest of the programme.